I want to bring a little recognition to the shirt here right now because
yeah, I was
you know,
stashing through the snow.
yeah, baby, for the holidays, stash you through the snow. Maybe just maybe that might just get a few eyeballs there, just seeing the old Santa hat and the big old mustache right there. Yeah.
Where you get that shirt from, Dan?
Oh, somebody made it and gave it to me. I'll bet I've had this shirt shoved in my closet. Who knows? Maybe 20 or more years. That's where I mean, Eric, I've got T-shirts that are probably, I'll say 30, 40 years old easily. Jeans and stuff like that, probably 30, 40 years old still. And it's kind of funny because I'll pull the jeans up now and put them on. And because they're beat up and worn looking, people are like, wow, you're so in style. I'm thinking, because beat up looking jeans with holes, holes, or they're worn so thin, you wonder how these ladies or these guys put these pants on without ripping out all these little thin fibers that are worn right on out. I simply call that the hobo look. So
I love the shirt, man.
yeah,
Dan, what age were you when you got the mustache?
Oh, I was probably I grew a beard in through, I'll just say, into my college years. I started just, I'll say, experiment with, because at that time you really couldn't have facial hair. You could not have a beard. You really couldn't have a mustache. They wanted you to be clean shaven, and even your hair had to be a certain length. Nowadays, none of that stuff really applies. Your hair, pull it back and put it into a man bun. Now, so it's like the times have changed about facial hair and the hair in general. Because a stubble on your chin and stuff like that, especially in wrestling, you can actually use as a weapon. A lot of people don't think of that unless they've been I guess smooching with somebody that has a mustache or beard.
Could you imagine back in the day wrestling with a man bun?
No. Well, no, honestly, if you go back far enough, when you look at a lot of like the gladiators and that, they did sport longer hair, knights, things of that nature. You're looking at probably the best depictions in whatever art was left behind, because not a lot of good tablets or books were left on certain time periods. So we're kind of left to think that that grooming, facial hair in general, as you get older. Especially look at all the different presidents that have sported beards or a mustache. So it's just, and then you can just see just two of those different types of eras. So, yeah. Like yourself, how long have you had your own mustache and beard?
Oh, man. I think I started growing it around 13, 14, but it took a while for it to get thick. Sure, my big thing was I always liked the sideburns.
Yep, you've always starting at that young age. Did you just keep it?
Yeah. When it came in, I did. Okay, but I didn't get the really thick mustache like a Dan Severn or a Don Fry. It only gets to like a certain length and then it starts growing. Stops growing.
Yeah, well, I had like for a few pockets on my beard and that. It seemed like the mustache came in pretty good, and the mustache goatee came in, and the sideburns came in, but then like in that middle area, a little bit of a pocket, a little thinner on that, but it's kind of going eventually. Just knowing by just continuing to trim it, stuff like that, or shaving in general. Now it's kind of like I get sick and tired of shaving because I basically shave every day to keep things kind of looking prim, proper, look a little civilized.
Yeah. Dan, what do you got going on for the holidays?
Well, probably like most people, the Christmas tree and all that is up. Out here, I'll just say that I celebrate it in kind of like a little bit more different type of way. I'm not all big about all the presents and stuff like that. It's kind of like going, having children. It's usually about kids. That's what I always say. That's what Christmas is all about. So, I always, I'll send a gift off to each of my children, and I've always sent things off to my grandchildren already, and pretty much, and when I tell my kids, I go, you don't have to send Pops anything. If Pops needs anything, I go out and I'll buy it. I go, just send me pictures of what you're doing in life. That's all. Because I don't caption a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's kind of like going, the device I keep holding up over and over again, the cell phone, it's a handy dandy tool that most people carry around, and they capture moments all the time. So if I can't be there to be at a birthday, if I can't be there to be at Christmas time, it's kind of like, just shoot me a couple of videos, shoot me a couple of little pictures, maybe make a phone call, put me on a Zoom call or a Facebook video /chat, or I can engage with grandkids and then with kids on top of that. I always say kids, but it's kind of going, all my kids are anywhere from latter 20s now up into latter 30s.
How many grandkids you got, Dan?
5. So it's like a 5 and 5. There's five kids originally, and then there's 5 grandkids. So
luckily, I'm not a grandfather yet. My oldest is 20, but hopefully it'll be a little while for her. But I will say, I was at my sister's yesterday, and she just became a grandmother, and I was playing with her grandson. And I was like, man, I'm looking forward to being a granddad. What's the difference in being a grandfather and a father? Like, I'm sure it's got to feel different.
The big difference is you could again between the two that you just said right there. With the grandkids, you could just wind them right on up, feed them full of a bunch of sugar, and then walk out the door and say, "See you later, son. See you later, daughter." and they have to deal with them kids bouncing off the walls for the next couple hours with all the sugar inducement.
Does it actually feel like Christmas out there in Arizona?
What's that?
Does it actually feel like Christmas when it comes to holidays out there in Arizona?
I mean, growing up in a state like Michigan, it's a different type of a feeling. I mean, it's we do a good job here decorating the place. So inside here, it's kind of nice at night when you've got the Christmas tree lit up. I mean, it's an artificial tree, but it's lit. It's held up very well over the years, and we put it up each year. Put the lights and all that onto it. I mean, it looks, and there's been different themes over the years. So there's a nice tree that's lit up. There's some things over the mantle. Then it just looks nice. Maybe I'll do a little video and next week as it rolls a little bit closer. So of what it kind of looks like. But I mean, it's I think it looks very rustic, looks very outdoorsy because there's little owls and other things that are on the tree that just makes it look just different than the store-bought trees you see.
Yeah.
How about you
start a little bit before we guide on about some of the stuff that's going on in the news? You was mentioning about Elon Musk.
We didn't get a chance to talk to you about your Christmas right there, Eric. What's
you know what? Thank you. So I've got it's a little bit of a hard time right now. I got an uncle. He's been suffering from stage 4 prostate and lung cancer. He's got stage 4 on both. Yeah, he's got a trach. He's been really sick. They put him in hospice about 5 days ago. So I got a lot of my extended family. They're down as well because it could be any minute now, Dan. I mean, he's one of those. He's been fighting for years, and he said, "I'm ready." Like, he's ready. He doesn't want to eat anymore or nothing. But the body don't just shut down.
What does the medical community? How are they assisting you in something like that? If someone, is he at home or is he at a hospital or is he?
He's at hospice.
Okay. So okay. Being in hospice, I mean, because they did hospice at my parents' home.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my parents, they both passed away at their home, and surrounded by their stuff and their children. So I mean, it's it's a very tough, very emotional type of aspect. And you do have a couple, usually one or two of the hospice nursing staff that are there with you.
Yeah, he's staying there because he's in extreme pain. I mean, obviously he can't breathe, and my uncle has a very bad back, and they've had him on like strong painkillers since the early 80s. So it's not something, he's not easy to get out of pain. And nowadays, because of the opiate epidemic and everything, doctors just don't give that out. So in order to stay out of the pain, they've got him there at the hospice taking care of him. And just like the past few days, I was there like 4 days ago. I helped him, pushed him outside, but he helped me, could stand up. In 24 hours, Dan, it just completely turned around. I was having to pick him up and put him in the chair. And so it was best off for him to be there. He knows what's going on. I've never had one of those situations where we just talk one-on-one. I mean, it's very admirable for him to be as mindful about what the process is going on. And he said, do I want to die? No. He was like, but I don't want to live like this either. And he's like, I know what's coming. I've done my best. I've lived my life. And, I mean, I guess that's the way to go.
Yeah, no, again, as long as you're able to do it like that. No, I think more people would like to do that, or like to have their say so and how, that comes about for them.
And he definitely does. When we were sitting there the other day, we was talking about it, and I said, this is what you want. And he said, this is what I want. Like, that's it, man. I mean, a lot of people don't get to make that choice, but he's making that choice. Outside of that, though, I mean, it was good to see my extended family. I wish it was under different circumstances, but we'll just be hanging around the house. It's not Christmas for me until I watch It's a Wonderful Life. That's my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I believe it has deep meaning to it. Makes you appreciate, the big things and the small things. But once we get through that, we'll eat some food and just hang out. A lot of times, Christmas night, we'll go watch a movie at a theater or something, because once you've done the Christmas presents and stuff, you got that whole day. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I get where you're coming from on that. It's because if you have kids, it's one type of thing, but if everyone's all grown up and stuff like that, it loses a little bit of that luster. Other than the fact that if people are not living close to each other where they interact, well, hopefully people and extended family members, they come in and you're able to see them for at least a couple of days, or maybe it's just that typically, like at the Severn household, there'll be a Christmas Eve party. So, and I mean, and it's a food festival, to say the least. So,
what's it like when the Severns get together?
No, again, there's a total of 8 kids, so a blend of 5 males and 3 females, and they all have all married, all with children. So I mean, there's nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters, and so it's quite, as I said, it's a food festival. I mean, it's I think people would be blown away to see through a entire countertop. Extends over to the table to where you just grab your plate and find a spot that you could possibly sit down and eat at, because there's so much food that it's covering, both countertop and table that pulled out table. So a lot of people the blue tube is always going on, and conversations and card games and games and all kinds of stuff are just taking place. So it's just a festival, in so many different ways.
Yeah, I know your brothers, they was in wrestling as well, very accomplished, such as yourself. What's that like when you guys get together? Were you competitive with each other?
No, I mean, no, we're not going to get into no wrestling matches in the front room. I mean, it was, I'll say a couple of those matches took place maybe early on, but no, we were basically in different weight classes, and it just made it good. And I think we kind of respected each other and just stayed out of each other's weight class, and usually letting the older sibling kind of like they're the people that bore that torch, And so we'll let them do their thing. And that was, I've wrestled in different tournaments and stuff like that with alongside, but we're trying to stay out of each other's weight class or age group, so that when my brother's older and he's wrestling in these collegiate type of things where he's older than the 18 years of age, I'm wrestling in the 18 years and other junior type of thing. So just different age brackets and that. I know.
Did any of them get involved with like coaching or MMA later on in life?
Not with MMA, no, but the coaching and stuff like that, just for the fact that they had their own sons and daughters, to where I actually have a number of nephews. I don't think I've had any nieces. I have really to think about that. No, and they have ever gone into wrestling yet, because women's wrestling is quite abundant now. There's actually more opportunities for female wrestlers than are for male wrestlers. But there are, I'll say, second generation state champions through the Severn bloodline, and there's now the third generation is in the works. So, and that's where, even like in my own immediate family, it's kind of like I had a son, David, that wrestled. He was a couple times state champion, and now he has a couple sons. So we'll see what's going to materialize there. Well, I'll say on a great note, he'd asked me a couple years earlier, goes, at what age do you think, his oldest son is named Maddox, and he said, what age do you think Maddox should start wrestling? I go, well, I said, first off, it should be he wants to do this. I said, but at the same token, the world has changed to where there is not a lot of physicality taking place. You don't see a lot of father-sons going outside, throwing the ball, shooting the hoops, kicking a soccer ball. I go, it's really important that you do a lot of physical play with your son, especially if you want him to go into wrestling. I go, it'd be like physical horseplay, but let him know that you are nothing more than gymnastics equipment that lays on that ground there, and that he's going to be jumping on and trying to contort. I said, but you just got to grab him and just wrestle around with him. And as you're doing things, grab him by the leg and then say, this is a single leg. Now I grab two. That's called a double leg. This is in wrestling. This is what your pops used to do. I mean, those kind of ways where you do it, where you're playing to where they associate kind of fun. And the unique thing through all, of course, of all what I'm saying right now, is his son did come to him and asked him if he could go out for the wrestling team this year. So, and he's just a pup there still. So as long as he wants to, and my son can help make it fun, but then my son called me a couple times doing a little Zoom call like this, so that Matt could tell me himself what he was doing at practice today. So
I'm good friends with Dr. Warren Farrell, who does a lot of research on these topics. And I don't know all the statistics, one by one, but he had a study where he showed that dads who roughhouse with their kids and their boys, those boys excel in so many areas, Dan, that roughhousing and that, tumbling around with their kids, it is very important to their upbringing.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of parents, they sit in a chair and they just flap their yap. There's a whole lot more to it. And that's where I know I've regaled stories before, but I'll regale again, that even with my own children, anytime that I was laying down on the carpet, they knew that I was free game, to where one of them would come flying off the couch. I mean, I was like, they were watching professional wrestling where they're jumping off toward, they're landing with their knees and hands and knees and elbows, stuff like that, right and midsection of you, where I even had one of my brothers over at one point in time, and it was after a big meal, and he was laying down, and one of my children mistakenly thought that my brother was me, jumped off and kiboshed him in the midsection there, to where my brother was rolling around on the floor like, oh my God, knocked the wind out of him and stuff like that. But I was always kind of somewhat prepared to be attacked by one or two, and then, let them get the upper hand, and then then start to slowly turn the table onto them. And then as they're trying to get away and they're squealing and stuff like that, grab them by the ankle, then lift them up in the air and just look at them eyeball, and go, where are you going to go? Your dad's got you now. And then put their foot to the ceiling. But, my son sees me doing that with grandkids. So it's like I'm going from one generation to the next, to where when they're out in my training facility, they see me doing, I'll say, I'll just get one or two of them. Like this, Dominic's has 2 sons. That's my daughter Dominique. She's got 2 sons, and they always want to go over and they're like, Grandpa, play. Let's go play with Grandpa. It's because they'll come over to my training facility. I have my office in there, but then I have also my training facility there. So when they come on over, it's kind of like going, they follow all my rules. They take the shoes off out in one little area. So they take the shoes off, and then they come out in on the mats. And now from there, it's like, it's like, I'll say an insane asylum, because it's padded walls, padded floor. If you fall down, you're not going to get hurt. You run into walls, you're not going to get hurt. So it's like, let's go crazy. But then I have all assortment of drills that I will do with them. It's kind of like, well, let's walk like, let's do a crab walk. Let's do a bear crawl. Let's do this. Let's do that. Can you do a piggyback? Can you hop on 1 foot? Can you hop on 2 feet? Left foot only, right foot only. It's kind of like I'm doing. You put the left foot in, you put the right foot back, put the right foot in, and you shake it all about, do the hokey pokey, So again, they don't know what I'm doing, but my daughter, she's on to it. She says, what diabolical plan are you up to there, Pops? I said, your children are having the time of their lives, and so am I. While your father diabolically is teaching them gross motor skills, hand-eye coordination, so that when they hit around that 18 years of age and they're ready to graduate out of high school, I might be saving you about $250,000 on a college education. I said, so you can thank me then if you want.
That's a good subject right there. College education. That was something that we was always told, get your kids after they get out of high school. You need to go to college to set yourself up for life. I'm not so big on college as I used to be, Dan. I think trade schools is highly underestimated. How do you feel about today's society with the colleges? Are you a big advocate for the colleges?
Oh, I've been very proponent against most going to college right out of high school, because they're barely 17 or 18 years of age. They're wet behind the ears about what life is all about. And yet during that senior year, you will be receiving letters. Again, the time era has changed. Back then, you would have been receiving letters from all these credit card companies saying, congratulations, graduate. And we would like to offer this credit card to you and give you a limit of, a couple $1,000. And you're thinking, wow, I'm being given a couple thousand. No, you're not being given nothing. They're going to allow you to rack up a bill of a couple $1,000. But then if you then you got to look at the back of the card. Eric, what kind of interest rate do you think that credit card comes with?
10, 15%.
Well, maybe back then. Credit cards now are probably 20 to 30%. And again, that's what they're sending off to these high school graduates and most people, because we do live in a very plastic society. Again, I'm kind of diverse from you asked me originally about college. I think that most should not go to college for at least 1 to 2 years, maybe more. Simply go out into the workforce and get a job. Work a couple of different jobs and realize, man, I hate my boss. I hate my job. So that when you finally go to college, you really will apply yourself. Another route is, why not simply go into the military? Last I checked was, you go into the military, give up 3 years of your life, and then you get to go to college on a full scholarship. So why would you not want to do that and not be $100,000+ in debt that you will probably never see the light of day again on?
Interesting you say that. So I got a stepson that graduated last year, and he went into college. He had his college taken care of, and he just came to us the other day and said, I don't think it's for me. I don't like what's going on in the college, and I want to go into the military. I looked over at his mom. I was like, I'm all for it. He's like, what's your dad say? He was like, he's good with it. And I was like, I am too. Yeah, and I think they should have that option. You know, I've watched even with him, a lot of these kids are confused. You're right. They're wet behind the ears. Who knew exactly what they wanted to do at 18 years of age? You know, I've asked him, like, what do you want to do for a career? I know it's changed 4 or 5 times.
Eric, you know? I mean, let me interrupt for 1 second. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So, you know, but because, I mean, the reality is we do, I'll say, the best of our guessing. You know, we sometimes think, well, whatever first job you get, that starts that interaction between, okay, I give up X amount of my time and I'm receiving X amount of dollars. So you give up time for money is what you're doing. Hopefully you like what you do. You like most of the people that you work with. Not too often are you going to like everyone, because there's always going to be someone that's going to be a little bit of that stick in the mud or something like that. But, hopefully you enjoy most of the people that you're going to be around, and you enjoy your work, because the typical aspect is you got to work for about 30 years in order to be truly invested into, any kind of 401 programs, things of that nature. And when's the last time you heard of the word pension being offered up with any company? It's like the dodo bird. It no longer exists anymore. But there used to be, there is with the government jobs, there happens to be a pension. I always tell myself that in my next life, I want to come back and get myself a government job, because I've seen some of the people that work in government. Whoa, yeah, I think I could handle their job quite easily. But, but that could definitely lead us into one of the other things that I know is on my agenda, is that, we're some time after the election has taken place, and all kinds of things are being lined up. I mean, Trump has an agenda. I mean, I don't know if you've been watching the news.
Somewhat.
All kinds of people from all over the United States, all over the world, they're not traveling to Washington, D.C. They're traveling to Mar-a-Lago, Florida. So, I mean, literally, you can almost say that Washington, the future of Washington, D.C. right now is hubbed at, Donald Trump's estate, because he's not waiting until Inauguration Day to get the ball rolling. I mean, there are so many things that are happening in a positive way right now, because they see who the new sheriff is going to be in town. And he's not going to be this one that's going to become MIA. So, again, for those that don't understand what that means, that for a Biden that never shows up, is never anywhere, and won't be handed soft questions or questions ahead of time. Even the whole. I mean, I can't say enough. I'll say negative things about Biden and Harris, what they have not done for the American people. And yet you've got Biden there with the power of what's the word I'm looking for right now?
Power of the country.
Yeah. Power of pardoning.
Power
of pardoning. Yeah. To where it's like, and he's pardoning a lot of his family members. He'll probably be pardoning himself on top of that, because of all the money that their family laundered. And to me, it's like going, there has got to be some criteria. There has got to be, Eric, there's got to be some type of criteria that supersedes a pardon. I mean, isn't, the fact that you're selling out the United States to another country, isn't treason one of those elements that one could simply say that, a pardon normally works, but when you are selling things off to other countries about the United States, I would think that there's got to be something. I've never had a chance because, now that we have AI has become more and more abundant. That was one of the questions I had written down to simply say, ask AI that, is there anything that supersedes a pardon?
It's a good question.
So it just, because is it right that not only are they going to get away with it, but there's a lot of other people on both sides. I'm not here just picking on Democrats. I'm going to pick on Democrats and Republicans. I'm going to pick on anyone that did not have the United States and Americans' best interests. And there are people on both sides of the aisle that did not have our country's best interests.
The only exception, Dan, is impeachment. You can't pardon anything to do with impeachment.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting question now that you've brought that up, because this is something I've been pondering on myself. We see that Joe Biden pardoned his son, Hunter. It's very well known, the ridiculousness and corruption that Hunter was involved in. And very common people have said, if that was my kid, I would have done that too. I want to pose that question to you, Dan. Say, Hunter Biden was your son, your son did the things that Hunter Biden did, and you were the president. Would you pardon him just because he's your son?
I can't answer that question. No, I would not. I would have beaten my son's ass. I would have beaten my daughter's ass. Again, he's a frail, feeble man that's incapable of walking, 20 yards. Can't walk up a flight of stairs. There's all kinds of other things. I could easily say, but it's kind of going, the public knows. I'm not here simply just to beat him up on it, but at the same token, what I don't like about most Americans is they're too quick to forget, because all they're worrying about is, it's kind of like, that was yesterday's news. Now I'm on to today. But you got to educate yourself. And that's what I don't like about a lot of our school systems and what we're teaching in our school system. It's that we don't teach history enough, or maybe enough people don't pay attention to history. Otherwise, it's going to repeat itself. There have been a lot of turds in our government. Again, if anyone that knows me, that when I call you a turd, that's a pretty bad thing. I don't like to curse. And even in my database, I actually have a column that is known as turds and shit talkers. You don't want to be in that column, Eric. You don't want to be in that one. And I've got probably about 35 to 40 people in that database.
Oh, that's small compared to mine.
Oh, well, I've lived a pretty blessed life then.
You have. You definitely have. But that's interesting, because I was thinking the same thing. Obviously, I love my kids, but in order to love your kids properly, you need to teach them right from wrong. And they don't learn lessons when you constantly enable them by letting them get away with that bad behavior. And I guess none of us would know until we were in that exact situation, Dan. But if that was my kid that got caught, I can't say that I would do that, because they're not learning their lesson. You did the crime, you do the time. And I hope that while you're doing that time, you realize just how bad this sucks, so that you will never do it again.
Yeah.
And again, if I was in that position, I don't know, maybe things would change, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the timetables, there were things going on for so many years, years and or decades for Biden himself. So I mean, how long has this guy been? How long has this Biden himself been corrupt? I mean, you can't really ask the guy because now he'll probably testify that he's not of sound body and mind. Eric, has he been of sound body and mind during his entire presidential run and legacy that he's going to leave behind for his children and his grandchildren to cherish?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's I could see grandsons and nephews and nieces or whatever. And again, I don't know what he has there, but simply trying to change their name or distance themselves from the old sniffing, creepy Uncle Joe Biden. Yeah.
I tell you what, though, man, he had a really big smile when Trump came to the White House with him. Did you see that?
Why? Why do you think?
I think he was glad Kamala lost.
Really?
I do.
Okay, why?
He didn't want to drop out. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, Dan, but Biden was 100% planning on running against Trump. And Kamala put the screws to him. I believe the DNC put the screws to him. So he was not happy at all. And when Trump came there, he looked like he had a really big smile on his face. And I think it was kind of his slap in the face to the DNC for pulling him out of the race. Go back and watch it when Trump visited with him. You'll see it.
Yeah, well, will I bother to do that one? No. Well, again, I'm not just saying that to be mean or anything like that. It's kind of like going.
Oh, we're ready for him to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, no time to. Again, how many things will end up in his suitcase or box when he's on his way out? A few more mementos that he probably thinks is, oh, this is my painting from the wall. This is my couch. This is my this that. And thinking, no, it wasn't. It just, what I'm looking forward to right now is one of the little entities that Trump is putting together, and he's got Elon Musk along with, and I have a hard time pronouncing his name, with the new
Ramaswamy.
Yes.
When I met him, he told me, think of it as Vivek like cake. Because before I was calling him Vivek, but it's Vivek.
Vivek?
Vivek. Yeah, Vivek.
Vivek.
Vivek. Yep.
Okay, so Vivek and Elon, I mean, to have this category of government dodge, right? Like government over expenditures or something like that. Is that what that stands for?
Yes. Department of Government Efficiency, I believe. I believe that's what it is. Both looking it up.
Okay. Well, just putting those words all together in one sentence makes me want to laugh, because our government, especially the current government, is so horrible at spending our tax dollars. So to me, if those two cannot come up with at least $1 billion in the first couple months, I can see it in the first couple months, at least $1 billion of unnecessary expenditures. And COVID alone, again, I keep going back to the COVID caper alone, simply prove that. Do all of these different people, do they need to fly in? and do they have to be flown in, and they all have to stay at a hotel and be fed all at the cost of taxpayers? When through COVID we proved you can get on a Zoom call with your laptop, get on a Zoom call with your cell phone. We proved that there could be a lot of efficiency, even though I think it was all a crock of crap right there. Again, when I'm with you there, Rick, I could be a little bit nicer about my language. With Don gets me a little bit more riled up to where I start dropping a little bit more colorful language with him. But it's to me, those two gentlemen ought to be having literally a field day of looking at over expenditure after over expenditure after over expenditure. And let me just, it's in all the news and it's been talked about already. Even as the Biden administration is riding off into the West, they're selling off the border wall for pennies on the dollar. Now, why? I mean, I could probably ask a child and I would get a better answer than I will ever get out of a Joe Biden. Why would anyone, after you've purchased at the cost of the taxpayers, and now you really want to put the screws to the taxpayers? He thinks he's putting the screws to Donald Trump. He's putting the screws to taxpayers. And again, that's what I hope people remember these things. The next time any affiliate of that whole regime, flush it right down the toilet. Just like the piece of crap he is. The turd.
That's a turd for sure. I don't know if you know it. He just sent another $50 billion to Ukraine. It's billion with a B. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but in just his 4 years that he's been in office, he sent more money to Ukraine than he did in almost the 2 decades that we were in Iraq. That's crazy, Dan. Crazy.
Why is this one guy allowed to make a decision like that?
Because he can. He's the president.
Yeah, but it's you have a House, you have a Senate, you have these things that are in place to put things into a check and balance. And to me, they're going, that it makes me mad that you have again. There's grounds to be. You can't a pardon. You might get out of jail free on one of these pardons, but to me, it's like going, what is really being done is downright treasonous.
It is.
And there has got to be something that supersedes a pardon. There has got to be.
According to Elon, he says he believes he can take out $2 trillion out of our government spending, and it will not mess with one bit of our day-to-day operations.
Oh,
$2 trillion. That is a lot of money, Dan.
Oh, it is. And with Elon saying something like that, I know it's possible because,
oh yeah,
first off, he's a businessman. Who is funding Elon's projects? I mean, it all started with him. He has investors now because Elon has become an investable type of an individual. So it's easy for him to raise money because people want to be involved with someone that is successful, someone that's good at what they do, someone whose word means something. Now, if Biden and his son were to open up a company, Eric, would you be rushing out to buy some stock in that one?
Maybe.
Really? Well, yeah, I think they're going to be selling off wall fencing materials there pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Nancy Pelosi invests in it, Dan, then she knows something that we don't.
And again, that's insider trader. and
absolutely.
And it's her husband has been doing that all along. She's the stuff that she. It's like when a person's wealth, a public servant, no less, a public servant, which your salary is not supposed to be all that great, but they are. And to know that they're only supposed to make this much, but how did they amass double, triple, quadruple, or more of their wealth on a paltry, little, servant's salary?
Do you have you heard how much last week the updated numbers of Elon's net worth is? He's the first person to gain a net worth that much.
No,
$400 billion.
Okay, what's the next category after being a billionaire? What's
trillionaire?
Oh, okay, trillionaire. So again, that's where. So no one has been a trillionaire yet.
Nope.
Even with our oil, even with overseas oil barrels.
Well, now let's break that down. According to like Forbes and other stuff like that, Elon is the richest man in the world. I think he's still holding that up at the top.
Yeah, I would have thought that.
I don't think the oil tycoons and stuff out in the Middle East are telling you how much money they have. And so I am sure there's richer people in the world. They're just not going and trying to get themselves put on a list.
And why? Okay, again, why do you think that is?
They don't want people knowing what they've got.
Well, again, that is the common sense answer right there. That they don't want, because they don't want to be targets. So I mean, just on that same note, which it's a little bit different, but it's actually the same. Have you noticed this recent rise in crime where football games are taking place, and while a certain football team is at a away game, their home has been targeted. A quarterback home might have been targeted and ransacked because they're away.
No, I didn't know that.
No, just recently, a couple of different football quarterbacks and other players, because it's all public knowledge that they're going to be leaving town. And again, you might want to actually Google that as I'm talking to you, that their homes have been violated, things have been stolen out of it, and it's to me, I'm thinking, I think that's a rather diabolical plot that some criminals came up with. And you I see you kind of smiling or something like that right there. Like
I see it. Yeah. Joe Burrow's home broken into during Monday night's game. This was just last week in Ohio.
Yeah, and there's been actually several others that have led that. To me, it's going, and that's just talking about football. I mean, this could happen to any sport here right now, depending on the season. When they simply know that the Lakers are heading this direction, and the Detroit Tigers are heading in that direction. I mean, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, the list goes on. Hockey, away games. So this
is the reason why you don't tell people everything you're doing on social media.
Well, I mean, that is not you're not telling what you're doing on social media.
Yeah, they know. But I mean, let this be a warning. If somebody's paying attention to this with a game, so they know that he's not going to be there, there's people that put every little thing on social media, Dan, when they're going away from their house and stuff. There is people that are waiting to take advantage of people in situations like this.
Yeah, but also, Eric, again, I hold up the cell phone. This is just one little electronic device, but there's other things you could put on your home. There's these Ring doorbells where you actually see the people and that. There's other surveillance, motion detectors, things you put around your windows, stuff like that, when you know that no matter where you're at, it is forwarded onto your phone to let you know that someone is about to, or someone's in the process of breaking into your home. So an alarm has been set off So, I'm thinking, wow, you need to, I think the security industry, again, maybe these are folks that are putting stock into the security industry. So they want to get their stocks to rise up. So maybe if they showcase a few, thefts, break-ins along the way, it will help to move the needle on some stocks.
Have you ever had anyone break into your home, Dan?
Well, I think some people might be, because I always tell people, you might break in, but will you leave?
I was just sitting there thinking, I could only imagine, someone coming in to rob the Severn house. And then when they get in there, they meet Dan with his holiday mustache. They're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Well, the fun, again, one of the, this is actually not funny, but there was at one point in time, I mean, there was, before I had other types of weaponry, I had this big old Bowie knife. For whatever reason, I like something about knives and swords and things of that nature. And I actually have a collection of a few things. I mean, it's I'll turn you a look at this. These are just ornaments on the wall, but these are like Indian spears, awesome. Stuff like that. But they're just a few little trinkets. And I'll show you two other. you'll just get a kick out of these two other things that a buddy of mine made for me. I don't know if I ever shared these with you before, but he made this mask. I mean, it's very pliable, but I mean, it's basically like a Viking helmet or something like that. And so, he used to laugh, said to like a bull in a china closet. So he made up this type of thing. It's just a very lightweight type of fabric, but I thought that's pretty funny. And just recently, he made up another one because he said he couldn't believe how tight. He says, you got such a big head on you there, Dan, that he made this one now. And
it's like the Monty Python.
This is the new one, yeah. So again, it does fit my head a whole lot easier, but it's just really two cool things that he come up with there to where again, boom.
You wear those often when you're not on the podcast?
All the time, yeah. When I'm out, doing yard work and stuff like that, yeah. I put on my tunic and stuff like that, and I, yell out to my neighbors, "You're!" Yeah, no, it's yeah.
It's awesome, man. Well, Dan, man, it was good to get on here and talk, man. I guess on the way out for any of the viewers,
well, again,
with the holidays, you got anything to leave them with?
Yes, you better exercise during these holidays because we are eating a lot of extra calories. I mean, it usually starts around Halloween because there's all kinds. Eric, do you have any leftover Halloween candy?
No, it's been gone.
Okay, all right. And okay, do you have any children at home? I mean, was that candy consumed by you?
Some of it. I call it the dad tax. We took you trick or treating. I get 20%.
See, I mean, you're actually much nicer than the government. But no, but there's extra calories through Halloween, a lot more extra calories at Thanksgiving, and let's face it, New Year's, Christmas Day, and people's activity. Typically, if you're in I'll say colder climate type areas, you don't get outside as often because the weather. You just don't see kids that are out there building forts, having snowball fights, going sledding, and that's where, to me, those are some great cherished moments that I keep telling my son and my daughter just to do this type of stuff, to keep memories for your kids, so that down the road it's kind of like even as I'm putting together Christmas presents for my kids and stuff like that. I really want to write like a short letter each time, just so I could try to bring up a different story, so that even when I'm long gone, they'll still have these memories of these stories. I've got letters from my grandmother. I've got letters from my mother. she always basically wrote on behalf of, my father and her. But it's kind of cool then to reread these letters at different times and just have a little bit better understanding the hardships that they went through trying to provide better for their kids. That's what each family tries to do, just tries to make a little bit better for them. But we have hit a point that I think we are going backwards. So Absolutely. That's where it's like, I'm not trying to be, rain on people's parade, but it's kind of going, have fun, but have fun doing, instead of just playing video games, actually play some board games. Get up there, shake those dice, roll those dice, do something, but get outside. Make a snowman, make a snow fort, have a snowball fight, go sledding, do something that's going to, do some fun for you. And again, there's, like my daughter and my son-in-law, they've got, they've got a couple of boys. They, I said, I asked her, ahead of time, what would she like for Christmas present? And she goes, really, Dad? She goes, just how about a swimming pass for the whole family? Because it's something, what I like about that, it's something they'll use.
There you go.
I mean, Eric, how many times can I walk around the neighborhood, wearing my little Viking?
I could see you going off the diving board wearing that.
Rest assured, I will be that quirky person that they'll be going, I think Mr. Severn's cheese has slipped off his cracker just a little bit there. So, but on that note, Eric, I can say we can wrap things on up, and we'll once again stashing through the snow. Guys, get one more, puff up the chest right there. Stashing through the snow. There we go.
I love it. All right, Dan, you have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys sometime soon.
Yep. Take care.